Hi guys, and welcome back to our experience with tear duct probing, part 2. Um, I'm just going to do this kind of impromptu video. I'm not sure about how busy I'm going to be in the upcoming little bit, so I just wanted to get my thoughts and experience out while it's still somewhat fresh. So if I'm super busy, you're going to see this version, and if I get a chance, I will redo a better version. But it's been over a week since the tear duct probing, and I'm just going to kind of go through what we had to do for all of that. So, in our experience, the hospital in which we were getting it done at wanted me to go to a pre-op appointments, kind of like a tour of the facility and what to expect. If your child is over 2, they're recommended to come in and they see the playrooms and kind of get to know a little bit about, like, taking your blood pressure, listening to your heart, etc. Um, so I had to go to that 2 days before the actual procedure, and that was fine, which was great because I had never been to this hospital, so I wanted to drive there, see what it was like, time it out, etc. So we got a good idea of when she would be booked for as well, because I did overhear one of the nurses saying that they typically go youngest first, and I had a feeling that Erica would be the youngest there, just from the feel of, what the other clients there were for the tour. So we got booked. You have to call in the night before to find out your OR time. So we called in the day before and got that she was at 8 o'clock in the morning. So they wanted us to be there at 7, which was fine. So I actually had to wake her up and bring her, and she was such a good girl. And then she went straight into the playroom, no problem. Everything leading up to that was great. She wasn't scared. She was excited to play with all the new toys. Getting her in her little hospital gown, no issues there. Taking her blood pressure and checking her temperature and all of those kinds of things that they do, and checking her weight, all of that was a bit, you know, I felt like they could have been a little bit better considering they were a pediatric unit. So I kind of expect a little bit more from them, but I mean, it is what it is, and we put on some wiggles and made it through. uh, but they didn't have like any distraction techniques that I kind of expected to see. Like, oh, here's a sticker or something, but no. So I was a little disappointed with that. I should mention that the tour was a long process and you had to fill out some paperwork. So if you are wondering if you should go to your hospital tour, if you are given one, you definitely should. Not just for, you know, finding out where it is, but it actually is helpful in filling out paperwork that needs to be done prior to. So also, we had to hand in the physical that we had to have done by her GP, general practitioner, so her regular doctor. And then we got to speak to the anesthesiologist and the ophthalmologist once we made it down to the other waiting room right before they took her away. So there was it was kind of chaotic, to be honest. There was one other family in this like other waiting room down on the operating floor, and the anesthesiologist comes in and the surgeon comes in, and then a nurse comes in. So there's like lots of people in this little room, and they had asked me to actually take out her earrings. And I didn't, honestly, I hadn't even thought about it, but yeah, of course, they usually do. And I have not taken out those earrings. So they were the ones that she was pierced with, and I haven't like even attempted to take them out. Just because I was like, you know what, they're not bugging her, I'm just gonna leave them alone. Um, and like I didn't even know if I could get them back on after. So the anesthesiologist asked me to do that. And I tried, and honestly, she was like putting up a complete fight about it and like having a tantrum and stuff. So um, the surgeon came in and she said, "Did she ask you to take those out?" And I said, "Yes, actually, the anesthesiologist did ask us to take them out." And she said, "You know what? I'm just gonna get her to tape them. Don't worry about it. Like this doesn't need to be the most traumatic part of your visit here." And I said, "Okay, thank you. I really appreciate that." So that was really nice. And so she said, Our surgeon asked us to stay there in that waiting room, not go to the other waiting room because the procedure is so short that they were like, you don't even have time to go get a coffee, which it absolutely was. Um, so uh, Backtracking a little bit, so a nurse came and Erica went with her really well, and I was super surprised. They did say like you can bring like a toy or a lovey or whatever she likes, and I had her favorite stuffed animal, which is a Minnie, and so she just took the Minnie and kind of distracted her a bit, and she said she'll be asleep in like a few minutes, and they did use the no, sorry, the face mask one, not the. So she didn't have a needle at all. Like she didn't have any IV ports, nothing. She just had the breathing in one. So literally it was probably 20 minutes, I think, if that. Like it may not have even been that long. Uh, and the surgeon came back out and the doctor came back out and talked to us. She didn't tell us too much. She just kind of said, this is what to expect. You have your discharge papers. Make sure you read those. Went over a few little things with us, and then had talked about her right eye being a little bit worse. So, and then I could hear her crying. So she said, "Oh, she's awake already and rubbing her eyes. It's all fine." But I could hear her crying, and I basically like shut down my ears at that point and was just like, "Take me to my baby." And then the doctor was like, "Oh, that nurse over there is trying to get you to go because she's awake." And I said, "Okay." And I was like ready to go, but then the nurse was like trying to tell my husband where to go, and I just, because there's only one person allowed in recovery, but all I was thinking was, I just need to get my baby. She's crying. She doesn't know what's going on. Like, get me to my baby. So that it felt like 5 minutes, but I'm sure it was, maximum 5 minutes from her being awake to me being there. And she cried for the next like hour and a half on and off. And we were in recovery, I think, for an hour, which went really fast, surprisingly. And they had her have a popsicle, and that was the only time she stopped crying. Like, I felt horrible, like, because I just couldn't console her, like, no matter what I did. And I know it was just like her waking up from the anesthesia and like probably being sore and stuff. So, um, yeah, once we left recovery, she started to feel like, now that we were moving and getting away from all this, like these people and these things that she was not happy about, she started to, you know, stop crying, get a little bit more calm. And then we went up to the pediatric wing and we stayed there for, it felt like 20 minutes. Like, it was super short. And they were like, "How much of the popsicle did she have?" Because I had asked for a second popsicle because I thought maybe she'd stop crying. But she didn't really stop crying after the second popsicle. But we had brought it up to the next room, and they said, "How much has she had of the popsicle?" I said, "This is her second one." They're like, "Oh, okay." Um, and I said, "Can I give her her bottle?" And they're like, "If she's already had the popsicle and she's kept it down, then yes, she can." Because they just don't want them to vomit, really. Like, because their airways still can be a little bit, that's the part that they're most scared about, is the vomiting when they're under and like waking up and stuff, and it getting into their airways. So everything was good. She's like, "Yeah." And I kind of was on the fence about bringing the milk because I didn't know, like, from the tour they didn't say like you couldn't bring it or could, or like it wasn't very clear to me if I could bring her milk, because they had mentioned, well, she has to drink something or have a popsicle. And I thought, okay, well, I said, worst case scenario, we're not allowed to give it to her. So I said, I'm bringing a bottle. Thank goodness I brought a bottle. And I brought one of those applesauce pouches, because I knew she was going to be hungry. Like, she had to fast for this. So, um, yes, once she got her bottle in her, and she drank almost the whole thing. Like, she probably had about 5 ounces of the bottle, which she typically drinks about 7. So it makes sense that she had the popsicle and then the bottle. And then she fell asleep on the ride home. She was very sleepy that day. There was absolutely no swelling at all, and there shouldn't be. And the only thing, like, we got our discharge papers that told us like what to worry about and what to expect. Really, the only expectation they said was tearing, uh, and red tinged tears. That's all they really said that was normal. Um, which, I mean, I honestly was going through almost every day. I was like, should I take her in? Like, because they had said, like, bring her in to emerge if, like, and they listed, like, certain things. And I'm like, well, this is kind of like one of those gray areas. So, what I'm talking about is one of her eyes. So, again, she had both eyes done. The right eye had like a little bit of a red mark right here the day of. So she had it done at 8 in the morning. We were home by 11 something. Um, but right here, there was like a little bit of redness, and I was wondering if it was when I tried to put the drops in or something, or if like she rubbed it or something, but it was just like a little, like as if I went like that and it was red. And I was like, well, is that considered redness? It says if there's redness or swelling, like to take her into emerge, bring her back. And my husband was like, you know what? I think we're overreacting a little bit. Like, let's give it 24 hours. Like, let's see what it's like when she wakes up. Like, it's not getting any worse. Her eyeball is not red. Like, there's no other symptoms. She's not, irritated by it. There's no fever. There was no other symptoms. Like, literally no other symptoms other than, there was tearing still. And the drops that we were giving also said that was a side effect, was tearing. So, because they give you antibiotic and anti-inflammatory eye drops for them afterwards. So we were doing those 3 times a day, and I felt like, and then the second day, there was red goop and tears coming out of the right eye, the worst eye, and I started to get a little bit concerned, but then it says like that's normal, and then we did like a little bit more like internet research, and um, decided that there was no other symptoms. Her eyeball was not red at all. She was, again, not bothered by anything, and the redness here had dissipated. So I think what happened was this was maybe like a bit of the clog or whatever was, or like red from that or whatever, and it was like making its way out. On day 5, so the last day of our antibiotic treatment for the eye drops, it turned yellowy, like yellowy and then yellow goop. And I immediately freaked out and thought, uh-oh, something's going on. So I brought her into our regular doctor right away, like an hour later that I first saw this happening. All the while, tears are still coming. Like, tears are still coming. And I'm thinking, why is she still tearing so much? Like, I thought that this was supposed to be ended. Like, because when I had mentioned to the doctor said, oh yeah, it's pretty much 24 hours later, like, the symptoms are gone. Like, you shouldn't have anything. I don't, like, it's fixed. Which I'm like, oh, okay. So, with all this happening and being said, I then took her into the doctor, our GP, and he said, it looks like a regular eye infection. Let me give you another antibiotic, just to cover both strains of like bacteria. And then today we brought her back to the person who did the tear duct probing, and basically my worst fear, it didn't work 100%. So Her notes from the procedure say that she had mentioned that it was very tight and narrow, putting the probe through on both sides of her anatomy. They don't know exactly where. She said it's hard to say, but she thinks it's like down the nasal passage area right here. That it is um, that's where it's narrow and that's what's clogging back up again. So when I saw the yellow and the goop coming out again, that was it clogging back up again. So my worst fears are here, and today we got told that what the next step would be if we choose to do it. And that would be putting tubes in, and the tubes stay in for 3 months, and then they would be removed, and then again, hopefully that works. And if it doesn't work, then sorry, the cat is biting me. And if that doesn't work, then they typically would do another set of tubes. So, and we also got offered a second opinion to go to someone at Sick Kids Hospital in our area, to talk to someone who's kind of more of a tear duct specialist or deals with reconstruction plastics a little bit more in depthly. So, as a family, we're not sure what we're going to do quite right now. I will say that it has improved. She doesn't tear quite as often for right now, and we're like not even 2 weeks post-op. So that's why I don't know what we're going to do, because as of right now, it's improved and it's better, but it's not 100%. She definitely still tears, especially when we're outside in the sun and the wind. It We went out to a little local farm, and it was like sunny and windy that day, and I mean it was just as if we hadn't had the procedure done. So I was very taken back that day. I was thinking, uh-oh, I'm afraid this didn't work, because it's been so many days after. Everything should be healed now. Everything should be good. And so I was very, very sad to see that that was still going on, and I feared that this was going to be what we were told. So the good news is I mean, this is not life-threatening. So it's just we do have a bit of a choice here. So that's all I have for you for right now. Um, that's all the information I really have about either the tubes being put in would be being the next step. That's all the information I have about that. Um, and so I can tell you my feelings right now are mostly to go speak to the second opinion. Just it doesn't hurt to go speak to somebody else. So that's where my headspace is right now. I'm kind of whirling from this appointment today, but I still wanted to put out all this information somewhere just so that way I had it. And I thank you for watching. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Take care, guys. Bye.